Welcome to A Little Bit Radical, a business podcast from Standing on Giants. I'm Rob, your host. Join me as I meet people and organisations who are doing things differently, challenging the status quo and, yes, might just be a little bit radical. Welcome to this bonus episode of A Little Bit Radical to celebrate B Corp month. Now, if you're a regular listener, you'll know that B Corp comes up a lot. As a reminder, though, B Corps are a community of businesses who prioritise people and planet as well as profit. We've been very lucky to speak to some amazing B Corps across the first season of our podcast. Here's some examples of the amazing work they've been doing. First of all, in our most recent episode, we had Shelley Macintyre, CMO of Allplants, come to talk to us about this amazing plant-based B Corp. Here, she's talking specifically about an amazing campaign that Allplants are running to help tackle holiday hunger. Let's hear a bit more about not at school dinners.
Allplants recently launched a campaign to support families in the school holidays. The sad thing is that those millions of families who can't afford to pay for the school meals during term time also can't afford to put food on the table in the school holidays, and they don't receive any funding for that. So Allplants launched a campaign called Not at School Dinners, inviting people to get involved with Allplants. So Allplants is making a donation of 7,000 meals. And then in addition, anyone who paid £5.25 for a phantom meal because they didn't receive a meal, that's how much the meals cost on allplants.com. Allplants would match that donation in meals. So that has elevated our contribution to schools in North London into the tens of thousands of meals. And that's a commitment that Allplants will continue to honour until the point the government funds school holiday meals.
Shelley Macintyre from Allplants there. Now, you may well have heard of food waste app Olio, which allows you to share unwanted food with your local community. We were lucky enough to have Anne-Charlotte Mornington, Head of Impact at Olio, join us on A Little Bit Radical. And her work is very interesting. So here she is talking to us about two of her big projects that she's working on at the moment. First of all, the notion of carbon credits and registering Olio as a carbon project. And then how Olio is using its data to tackle food insecurity. Take it away, Anne-Charlotte.
And so two of the projects that I'm currently working on, which I'm extremely excited about. The first one is registering Olio as a carbon project. Because while the carbon market has been something that was very much focused on a lot of energy-based projects and nature-based solutions, we at Olio are really proposing a behavior change solution, which is helping communities become more sustainable with their consumption. And when they do that, they put a lot less things towards landfill and towards other food loss and waste destination, which creates less methane. And as a result of it, cumulatively, we can start producing carbon credits. And so this is something I'm really excited about because creating a methodology that endorses this can help Olio, but it can also help a lot of food banks, a lot of soup kitchens, a lot of mechanisms that help redistribute food waste that perhaps traditionally will struggle with getting funding, can or will very soon be able to get funding via carbon credits. And I think that's really exciting. And I sincerely hope that this new revenue opportunity will attract a lot of very ambitious entrepreneurs towards extending the life cycle of food and redistributing it so that it stays in the human supply chain and that a lot less food will be thrown away. So that's amazing. The other way that I'm trying to do more with Olio's impact is with a collaboration that we're doing with Guys and St. Thomas and Damsel, which is a company of data scientists who have started developing, in collaboration with Olio, a piece of AI and machine learning that allows the prediction of food insecurity at a general population level. And so we're building this tool, mixing some of Olio's data with a lot of other data sources to identify where food insecurity is happening and show it so that services in the public sector and the third sector can really tackle and support communities that need it most. Because at the moment, there's actually very, very little data, certainly isn't any behavioral data that supports or indicates the presence of food insecurity at a geographic level.
Two really interesting projects there from Anne Charlotte and Olio. Next up, we have George from Doing Good Works. I loved speaking to George about this business that was founded on giving opportunities to young people who'd been through the foster system. And what they do is they produce what they call print promo material, or commonly known as swag. And here's George talking about how they take a little bit of a radical approach to that.
The company has always been purpose-driven, especially in how we help disadvantaged former foster youth find the employment and skills they need for a brighter future. What is occurring now is not only are we sort of trying to do good for former foster youth, but seeing how we can sort of do good for the planet and for other communities. My role has sort of been coming in more recently. So I wanted to sort of expand on the approach of doing good from the final stage of the company, i.e. spending our profits to help those in need, to the roots of the business, how we find our vendors, how we get the products made in the first place. So when it came to finding vendors, I wanted to sort of step away from the traditional method of partnerships when it comes to print promo suppliers. And that's basically finding the biggest Chinese vendors you can, who sell tens, if not hundreds of thousands of products, pretty much as cheaply as possible, and tend to be pretty disposable. You know what I'm talking about, plastic water bottles, cheaply made t-shirts, kind of junk which most people sort of forget about once they've given it. What I wanted to do is sort of, for the future of swag, in my opinion, is to have recipients sort of cherish the promo swag that they've been given. So what I wanted to do was find other B Corps and other mission-minded organizations that can supply products that they're happy to see co-branded with another company's logo or brand name. Basically, this allowed our philosophy of sort of doing good as part of Doing Good Works to shine even brighter from the beginning, finding the products that improve communities, are doing good for the planet, to the end of the customer journey being kitted and packed by our Do Good team made up of former foster youth.
George there and Doing Good Works. Next time you need to order swag for your team, I recommend checking them out, definitely. Next up, we have Erik and Wagestream. If you haven't listened to this episode, I really recommend giving it a full listen. We get into what financial well-being means, why money is such an emotional issue for us as people. But here's Erik from Wagestream talking about their journey from being a technology to stream income, so you can be paid a few days earlier, take a bit of control back over your earning, to their vision now to become the financial well-being super app. Take it away, Erik.
To have an app in your pocket where I can, wake up at 3:00 in the morning and be worried about some money question and be able to punch that question in and have it answered in the, very shortly, personalized, is really a big step forward. And it is really great support. And now introducing, all kinds of other products, like helping people switch their broadband in the app, like helping people to access vouchers to reduce their supermarket spend. Really, really important now in the world of cost of living with food prices shooting up the way they are. And just really becoming this financial well-being super app. So a long way away from just streaming income. And here's a few articles from the Money Advice Service that you might want to read. A lot of that is all still there. It's the core, but a much more holistic solution for financial well-being than ever was probably thought about at the beginning.
Thanks again to Erik for speaking to us about financial well-being and Wagestream. Next up, we have Vineeta from Wholegrain Digital. Wholegrain Digital build websites, but with a sustainability focus, and they focus on designing low-carbon websites. When I asked Vineeta what her vision of the future of the internet was, this is what she said.
There's lots of things that we're doing currently that we want to continue doing, like promoting low-carbon internet, greening the internet, making people think about how they use products mindfully, digital products especially. But that also brings us to understanding why internet needs to become more human, and domesticating internet is really important as more and more products are making us less of a community. I might sound very traditional and old-fashioned when I say I'm not very keen on Meta coming along and saying you can meet digitally and not in person. I feel like that is sad. It's just sad. But going back to the principles that we want to push for are making internet a place where people feel safe, psychologically safe. Privacy is first. How a person is feeling is taken into consideration when they come online. And therefore not bombarding them with messages and advertisements and taking away their options of where they, giving them the choice of what they want to do today rather than thrusting ideas in their faces of what they should be doing when they come online. I feel like there is a case of making internet more human, making it more privacy focused and putting the control back into people's hands who are on the internet rather than the large companies that are pushing their own agenda.
Vineeta from Wholegrain Digital there. Now, last but not least, we have Mahon from Brewgooder. Delicious beer, and not only that, the profits from this beer go to support clean water projects around the world. Here he is telling us all about this business and a concept which I think we can all get behind: beer washing as opposed to greenwashing.
I think what is the value in what the Brewgooder brand stands for now versus a more clinical and reasoned approach is kind of that authenticity. Like, we started for a very specific reason. We've went in various directions and grown in various different ways. But in many respects, I think what gained us the initial interest, or at least curiosity of people, was that we stood up and said we want to do something very, very different from the mainstream, even of the craft beer industry. Most people in 2016 would have started a beer brand because they wanted to make better beer, or, they didn't think there was enough good beer out there in the market. And we were almost energized by the fact that there was the ability to make great beer, but that wasn't why we started this brand. We looked at beer as a category that people got excited by, particularly young men got excited by, and I think that the opportunity to transform the behavior of young men into acts of kindness is quite radical in that respect, and quite subversive almost. And I think going out with that level of commitment to that purpose definitely was ahead of its time. I think now if you look at the beer industry, there's a lot more focus on purpose, whether it's finding purpose, whether it's communicating purpose or marketing purpose. For us, it wasn't really, we didn't call it purpose, we just called it the reason why we kind of got out of bed, and I guess that is. And if you look at the passage of time and the things that we've been through, particularly COVID, we were always on that end of the spectrum of people who wanted to make a positive change in the world, even if it was relatively small, or even if it never came fully to the fruition that we have in our head. We were always moving forward incrementally to hopefully a better world or more people empowered. But if you look at the market now, actually purpose is a really hot issue, and if anything, we arrived 4 years too early and now people are kind of catching up with us, and I think that that's put us in a bit of a slipstream, which I think, if I was planning out the business today, with my psychology today versus, in 2015, 2016, we wouldn't have taken as many risks. We would have probably done it in a way that was more beer first, purpose second. But actually, we now get to retrofit the beer, almost, if you like, and that journey to the purpose versus the other way around. So if anything, we're beer washing right now rather than the greenwashing that everyone seems to have on their lips.
And that wraps up this very special B Corp month episode of A Little Bit Radical. Thank you again to all the guests that were kind enough to lend us their time, lend us their insights over the course of the first season. We've got lots more B Corps signed up as guests, so make sure you keep listening.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, please follow us on your podcast platform. If you'd like to appear on A Little Bit Radical, or have an idea of someone we should speak to, please email podcast@standingongiants.com. or get in touch with me on LinkedIn. You can search Rob Fawkes or search Standing on Giants and you'll find me there. Thank you very much and speak to you next time.